Two Nerds versus the Internet. Friends were talking about their favorite comic books that are not from Marvel or DC. Go check it out. And this time we're going to continue with what Andrew has to say, starting off with his top 10 list. If you want a reminder of what the other top 10s were, you're going to have to go do what the funny voice at the beginning said and go check it out. I will post everyone's top 10 lists in this episode just so you can see it. But with that, let's get back into the episode. My turn. Number 10, Barry Ween. Barry Ween. Like the one I mentioned before. Number 9, Mouse. And I'm not going to talk about it at length, but I'm going to say this much. It is currently on the banned books list, if that means anything to you, because this is the story of a man in World War II and his experiences dealing with Nazi occupation of Poland. And the author is the son of that man. And it's all told through the perspective of the child, the son, Art Spiegelman, writing down the story that his dad's told him and representing all of the Polish people and the Jews as mice and all of the Nazis as cats. That's all I've got to say on that. I want to talk more about other ones, but it is a very impactful, very important book in our culture, in our world. Number 8 on my list, Umbrella Academy. Number 7, TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pick your favorite. There's a really good run on IDW that they did not too long ago. Fantastic read. Highly recommend that one over any of the others. Number 6, Transmetropolitan.
Yes.
Number 5, Why the Last Man. Number 4, Incorruptible / Irredeemable. Number 3, 8 Billion Genies. Number 2, Locke and Key. And number 1, Invincible. And God, do I wish I hadn't limited you guys to 3 because I want to talk about so many of these. But I think I'm going to just try and pick some of the key ones here and just move quickly. Invincible is going to be my all-time favorite out of this list because he's my 3rd favorite superhero. Go watch the cartoon. If you don't have time to read, I'm sorry, try and find time to read it, but go watch the cartoon. I'm going to talk 8 Billion Genies. I'm going to come back to that one because I want to talk some of these other ones, all right? Why the Last Man? Holy crap, what did you do to me, Derek? You gave me Why the Last Man.
I had to do it too.
Holy crap.
I had to see it. You had to see it.
Okay. So this is one of those published by Vertigo / DC. It is the story, and this is one of those, yeah, you didn't have to have superheroes. It's all just people. It's this weird world, and it's all just people. Something happens on Earth that's never properly explained where it came from or how it happened. All of a sudden, all species that have a Y chromosome are dead. And I say my words very specifically. All species that have a Y chromosome are dead. I don't mean all men died. Everything that has a Y chromosome is gone. That means all dogs, all cats, all birds, all animals of any form are all gone. Except this one random dude and his monkey, who is also a boy monkey. And that's where like the first issue starts. And you're sitting there going, I'm sorry, no, hang on, what? And there's a lot to explore there. This guy is now on a journey to try and figure out, A, what the heck happened, but more importantly for him, trying to find his girlfriend that he wants to make into his fiancée, because at the time that they're on the phone, she was out in Australia on whatever soul-searching journey she was going on, and him, being an amateur magician, is in a straitjacket hung upside down in his apartment and is, not really paying attention or doing anything in the world. So that's where it starts. And it's just a wild, wild journey of this man in a world of nothing but women. And some people, some listeners will hear that and go, oh man, a world of nothing but women. And for a moment, that's what our main protagonist thinks. That's not the world he got. Holy crap, go read Why the Last Man. That was an amazing story that is not superhero based. It's real world based. I don't want to be that man. I genuinely don't. We talked Transmetropolitan. We talked, everyone knows TMNT. There's some good stuff. Go read it. The one fun thing I'm going to say on Umbrella Academy, it's written by Tyler. Do you know this?
Gerard Way.
Yes, it is.
Of My Chemical Romance fame.
Lead singer of My Chemical Romance
didn't
is
know
the
that.
writer of Umbrella Academy.
Wow.
Really cool. Watch the show. It's actually pretty good. Doesn't follow the book that closely. That's okay. Incorruptible and Irredeemable. Again, darn you, Derek. This man, I don't know why this wasn't on your list.
I knew it was going to be on your list.
Oh my God. Okay. There's a reason it's Incorruptible / Irredeemable for the way it's written. Because it was two, not one, but two separate series of comic books. One called Incorruptible, one called Irredeemable. And in order to get the whole story, you had to read both. And I'm not saying you had to read one and then maybe go back later and catch up with the other. No. To properly read the story, you had to read like issues 1 through 5 of Incorruptible and then 1 through like 7 of Irredeemable. And then you had to jump back and you'd like read 3 or 4 and then you just kept switching back and forth. It was a pain in the butt to read this story just because there's no good way to like have it in one unless you have all the issues and can just organize them correctly chronologically. Yeah. But what it's telling is the story of a Superman level hero who snaps, goes crazy, and says, you know what? I'm the supreme power on Earth now. I'm done messing around. We're not doing this anymore. You guys are going to do what I have to say because I'm sick and tired of cleaning up your mess. Which is a really freaking cool way to start this story. Yeah. Okay. That's the irredeemable part?
Yeah.
That's the irredeemable part. Because he's done something irredeemable. He can't come back from that.
Yeah.
I think he kills off his like Justice League. And now it's like the B-list characters who have to come after him.
Yeah.
Oh, this one was good. Incorruptible follows that man's arch enemy as he realizes he's the only one who can save the day and stop the bad guy who was the good guy.
It's so good.
Which you're just like, wait a second. The good guy's now bad, the bad guy's now good, but the bad guy who's now good still really not that good. He's kind of more like a Deadpool who's just going to go do his own thing, but he's the one who's going to save the day? How's this going to work? Let me tell you. Have you ever heard of indestructibility as a power? Yeah, we've all seen indestructibility.
Yeah.
What if I told you you got more indestructible and stronger the longer you stayed awake?
Oh gosh.
Man, that's the best part about that one, man. This is where it gets funny.
I'm like, I would say you can't make this up, but that's legitimately what comics are. You're making this up.
Yeah.
That was his power. The longer this man was awake, the stronger he got. So if he would be able to make it 3, 4, 5 days awake, he'd be able to take down the other guy and have a pretty fair fight because of how strong he is. And it even shows how quickly his strength returns to him after sleeping and like how detrimental sleep can be. But obviously, you have to sleep. He's just a human.
Yeah.
He has to have sleep at some point. Otherwise, he's going to die. He's sitting there waking up and his like girlfriend or whatever is starting to get frisky and she's like kissing on him or whatever. And he's like halfway through shaving. Okay, well, she distracted him just long enough that now this man cannot shave half a beard until the next time he goes to sleep because the hairs have grown too stiff for them to work on any normal razor. So now he's like half a beard stubble from the last time he'd shaved and he's pissed off at her because he's like, now I look like an idiot. Like that's how quickly his powers work. It's like within an hour, I think. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy.
And when the longer he stays awake, remember, the more he starts hallucinating and going crazy.
Because he's not slept.
He's not slept.
He's
so
not slept.
He's unhinged.
It's just, oh my God, it was a fantastic read. If you find a hardcover set of them, softcover set, whatever, look up a list online of how to read it correctly so that you're flipping between the two issues. You're going to need a bookmark to be able to bounce between the two, but it was fantastic. The last one I want to talk about is actually a fairly new series called 8 Billion Genies. And I know neither of you have read this one because I've been telling y'all to read this one. I can't.
First time for everything.
Hey, listen, someday I'm going to be there. I can't claim that I'm the one who found it. I have to give all credit to my local comic store. I go and talk to the guy, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, I like this. I've read this. And he's like, do you like indie comics? And I can see he wants someone to like indie comics. And I said, yeah, I've read a couple things like this and this and this. And he said, okay, well, I see that you've got this Legacy of Darth Vader comic in your hand, which is by Marvel and is a fun story talking about Kylo Ren, but it's also written by Charles Soule. And he says, oh, if you like this author, I said, well, I've heard good things about how it's written. He said, I think you'll like this. And he straight up gave me the first issue of 8 Billion Genies. Now, it wasn't like first print of anything, third, fourth print, I don't know. But he's like, yeah, here, have this. It's yours. It's free. Come back, you'll want the rest. I said, okay, sounds good. The story of 8 Billion Genies starts with these people in this random bar in Michigan, and there's a band of 3 musicians setting up, and there's a kid with his dad who's kind of an alcoholic, and the dad's like asleep at the bar, the kid's just kind of hanging out. There's the bartender, and then this Asian couple or Chinese couple walks in speaking Mandarin, and nobody understands it but the bartender. And then all of a sudden, genies appear on Earth because the population hit 8 billion. Every human that is alive, including that newborn infant, and every conceived baby, now have a genie. So there are 8 billion plus genies on Earth. And they all say, in the native language of the person that they are the genie for, we're here, we're going to each grant you 1 wish. We'll keep track of what all the wishes are to make sure there's no conflict. Everybody gets a wish. Okay, well, immediately the bartender says, I wish that no wish made outside of this bar has any impact on the building, the people in it, or anything inside the bar. Just instantly, he makes that wish. And then his genie says, okay, and disappears. Well, the first 8 seconds, as the panel shows, it shows Earth looking pretty normal, and it shows 8 billion people on Earth, and it shows 799 million genies. So that means about 1 million people made a wish almost instantly within the first 8 seconds. It goes a couple more pages, and then the Earth is now a cube after the first 8 minutes. The human population is already significantly dropped. The genie population is about 100 million short of that. There seems to be a nuclear cloud raising over Brazil. There's one coming off of California. And that's the first issue. Every human now has a genie. And some of these wishes these people made. There's a woman who wished for more money than she knew what to do with. And now her and her dog are like swimming through her little trailer home because of all this money everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's a teenage girl who wishes that her parents would burn in hell, and instantly both of them are gone, and her like younger kid sister is sitting next to her going, oh, what did you do? I think in like the second issue, an 8 or 9-year-old makes a wish that he had all of the toys in the world or all of the candy in the world or something like that. And the dad rushes in going, oh my God, no! And he instantly uses his wish to say that his kids can't make a wish without his approval. Like just instantly, he's like, nope, my other 2 kids are not making a wish until I've given the approval. And it was such an incredible story. And the way that it's paced, you know, like I said, that first issue was 8 seconds and 8 minutes. The second one is 8 days. The second one's 8 hours. The third one's 8 days. And then it's to 8 weeks. And then it just keeps going until we learn the history of the genies, where they came from, why they're here, and we watch the last wish be made.
Okay.
Oh my God, it was such a good story. I cannot recommend it enough. It was such a good story.
Okay.
Now, there is a little bit of superheroism in it because, of course, people are going to wish for superpowers. But this is one that has that creative freedom to allow people to just do whatever they want. They write this insane story, and the artwork for it is actually the same guy who did that one I mentioned earlier of Gods Hate Astronauts. God Hates Astronauts. Yeah, that was it. Mm-hmm. Same artist. So it's this wacky, zany, very colorful, very bright, very vivid imagery on all these pages for these genies. And they, guys, I can't recommend it enough. Go read it. Please go read it. Okay. It was fantastic. Okay. Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Sold.
Not as quickly sold as Letter 44, but 8 Billion Genies, guys. I'm gonna have to reread it soon. It's just so good. So good. So we've kind of gone through everyone's top 10. Like I said, I'm going to leave that in the description for the episode. But I want to ask you this. What's your favorite thing about indie comics? I think we kind of touched on it some, but just give me a real quick. Tyler, what's your favorite thing on indie comics?
Just my favorite thing about indie comics in general?
Yes, sir.
I think it is the variety of stories that you get.
Mhm.
It's the fact that, you know, as great as superhero comics are, and those will always be my favorite, you fall into a very similar pattern a lot of the times, where it's villain comes in, messes things up, hero realizes just how high the stakes are, and then hero defies all odds to save the world. And, you know, it kind of follows a very formulaic pattern. And with indie comics, it's like there are no rules.
Yep.
There's no way to predict what you're going to read. Things could go well, they could go very poorly, they could take a left turn and go a completely different direction than you ever expected.
Yep.
Everything's on the table. Nothing is too crazy or against the rules to happen, and you get some of the best stories that you're ever going to find. And I think the best part about them, honestly, now that I'm talking through it, I think my favorite thing is that you get complete stories.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about, you know, wow, that was a great Superman story, but there's going to be another issue next month.
Yep.
And they're going to start it over, or they're going to,
Yep.
you know, pull on some thread and keep drawing things out. And, you know, as a reader of comic books, I still do like that. But sometimes you just want a story that you can sit down and read and get a full, complete story all in one sitting.
Oh, yes.
And indie comics do that a lot better.
And even if, you know, to your point, even if the story is 60 issues, 100 issues, okay, fine. You got 100 issues of a fleshed out story. In the end, the story's done.
The story's done.
Now, to that end, Locke and Key, it has its own self-contained story.
Mm-hmm.
There are some spin-offs, but you can read the self-contained story and be done with it. If you want to read the spin-offs to kind of explore the world more, sure, but it's not about the main characters. So you're not worrying about kind of like what Tyler's talking about of, oh, well, we'll see Superman in the next issue, or, you know, some...
Yeah, just the indefinite, never-ending...
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that actually is a huge challenge for DC, Marvel, and their characters, because something even I'm experiencing today with the books I'm reading, the current run of Batman changes things just enough from the previous run of Batman. And it's the same, you know, it went from like issue 57 to issue 58, I'll say. Okay. In issue 57, the world was one way. In issue 58, all of a sudden the world's a completely different way. And it has to try and harken back to all this other information that's happened before. Okay, well, you don't get that in an indie comic. You get your story. Your story's done. You move along. You know, to your point, if the story doesn't finish, you know, like you said, Derek, that sucks, and that's not great. But typically, 9 times out of 10, you have a story, they sell the story, and they move on.
Yeah.
That's 8 issues and 8 billion Genies. That's 120 issues in Invincible. Okay, but it's a self-contained story.
Correct.
I agree with you, Tyler.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite thing of indie comics?
I'm on board with a lot what Tyler said, and I like that. I think the creativity is more prevalent in indie comics. I just think there are so many different ideas. You don't really know what you're going to get. Even if you look at the cover, you don't really know what's inside of it until you get into it. It's going to surprise you.
Yep.
I think it's the reason why you start to see a lot of these indie comics get turned into television shows. I think we have come to the point now where it's like, oh, okay, we have source material. We can make a whole new show that no one's thought of based off this comic. And there's so many of them now. I mean, it's like you can just keep pulling from them. I mean, we've pulled from some video games before, but, you know, we're pulling from some indie comics. I think you had like a list of different shows there. And so that tells me that someone got smart in the boardroom. And it was like, you know what we need to do? we've been reading these books for a while. Why is this not a show?
Yep.
What if I'm the first one to get it on television and see what people think? I just think it works. I think it helps out for both parties, like the comic book and then the television show medium for entertainment and all that. And I was thinking to try to make like an analogy of like how to compare indie to your mainstream like DC and Marvel. It's like saying like one's a soap opera where it never ends. Like soap operas for like my entire life. The same, like All My Children or Guiding Light or whatever they're called. They've been going forever.
Yep.
Ever. They're not stopping. And then you have like self-contained television shows. They have, 10 seasons, but they end.
Yep.
6 seasons, but they end.
Yep.
And so like, which one are you drawn more to? I haven't watched soap opera since I was forced to as a kid, but I'm going to watch a show that gives me a complete story from beginning to end.
Even to that note, something like Friends or something like How I Met Your Mother,
Mm-hmm.
or even The Office, Parks and Rec, some of those bigger ones that, yes, they have an end. They didn't have to end.
Mm-mm.
It kind of got to the point where the company said, okay, well, your fandom's kind of falling off. We're not making as much money from it. We're going to kind of drop off and, you need to finish the story. Yeah, they come to an end, sometimes well, sometimes not so well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if they had the right funding and they had the right followers, they could have kept going with some of those TV shows for a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of further your analogy, I think of things that are kind of these new mini-series, as people call them, that keep coming out, where it is 1, maybe 2 seasons of a show,
mm-hmm.
and you get the whole story in that 1 or 2 seasons.
Yep.
That's your indie comics. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to leave it all on the table. We're going to tell our story. We're going to move on. You might see that same production company on the next one. Something that comes to mind is the guy who does all the scary stuff on Netflix. He did the Midnight Mass and other things. What are those? You know which ones I'm talking about. Derek.
Yeah. What is that called?
But those kinds of stories where it's like a 1-season story and he tells the story and he moves on. That's the kind of thing I think about with indie comics.
Yeah.
Is I've got my story. I'm going to tell it. I'm moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love them. I love them. I love them. I love them. We've said what our favorite aspects are. Do you kind of agree that that's what brings you back to them? Or is there something different that kind of brings you back to the indie comics over and over?
I will say this. You get a steady diet, right? You can do your DC and yourself and do some Marvel, and then you want your palette cleansed and you want something fresh, a new idea, something that Marvel and DC are not necessarily going to do. Not that they can't do it, they're just not going to do it.
Right.
And so you look on the shelf, you start going down, it's like, what is that? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but it sounds intriguing. I want to read that.
Oh yeah.
And you get into it and you just sucked into it. And it is something that sometimes you just don't see coming. Like I didn't expect someone to tell a story like that. Like when you're talking about Incorruptible, Irredeemable, you don't really expect that. You see a superhero, it's like, okay, it's obviously the good guy and this is the villain. It's like, no, they swap places. Like, what?
Yep.
So it's just a twist on the idea, and you just want more of that. You want more of that kind of thing. So I think that just helps you want to stay in to reading indie comics. It's like I know I'm gonna get an idea. Somebody had an idea somewhere, and they were allowed to flesh it out from beginning to end, and by the way they wanted to do it. Yeah, I'm on board.
I like that. Indie comics with a palette cleanser. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I would have gone the different direction with it. I would have said that, like, the Supermans and the Batmans, those are your meat and potatoes.
Okay.
Right? They're your staples. You can totally subsist on those. You could eat them every day and be perfectly happy. But then every once in a while, you get that scoop of ice cream that's just like, holy crap, that's exactly what I needed right now. And that to me is the indie comic, right? It's you don't need it. It's not filling a void that your other media was completely unable to give to you, but it gives you that extra little spice on top that you don't want it all the time, and you don't want it exclusively. You need your other stuff that's a little more a little more mundane, but when you get the good stuff in the concentrated doses and the right amounts, man, it's something all its own.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to use the food analogy too, so I'm not gonna talk on that. But I kind of agree with what you guys are saying. A lot of the comic books I buy are DC and Marvel. Granted, they publish a lot more because of the names that they have, the different characters they're trying to keep up with. In that regard, even within their stuff, not all of it's for me. But even then, with our list of indie comics, there's some things on there that I'm gonna want to read, some things I'm gonna look at, and even you guys describing it to me, you might have to sell a little bit. But that's something that I think is just so wonderful about indie comics, comparing them to normal comics, is you still have to find what's your niche and find what you like and be able to, find the comics that you want to enjoy. And I just enjoy that so much. And, I think that in this modern age of comic books, more and more people are gravitating towards the indie comics. Because, like I said, my local comic guy, yeah, he keeps up somewhat with what's going on in Marvel and DC. He wants the indie stuff. Even today, he'd send me a message, hey, we're having a little issue with such and such. Just want to let you know so you're not missing your books. I said, hey, thanks for that. By the way, I finished 8 Billion Genies. This was an amazing story. Thank you so much for recommending it to me. He said, oh, they've got another one that they're already publishing. If you want to read more, you need to go check out this series. Like, he's in the know on the indie stuff, and he's ready to push it. There's a guy who was running a coffee shop here for a while, and I got to talking to him, and he's like, oh, you like comics? And I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, what are you reading? And I told him what I liked at the time, and he said, yeah, I don't do the Marvel and DC stuff. It's the superheroes got a little too mundane because it was the same thing over and over. And he said, I stick to indie comics. I want those unique stories. I want those fun new worlds to explore that are different, that are its own self-contained story. And I think the more and more that people start to understand what a comic book can be, the more that they're going to look to indie comics or even Marvel and DC to be like, this is what we want from our comic books.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think more people will gravitate to that. I mean, it's almost like this. It's like if you've never been exposed, you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I think that once someone gets their first taste of it, I guess, it's like a new drug. I'm describing drugs. No, I'm saying when someone gets their first taste of it, they're like, I'm gonna add that to the things I've already been doing. But then you'll start to notice like the difference between this kind of comic and this one over here, and it's like, well, I'm starting to like it more, and it's probably because it's the new thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a bit more captivating. There's, there is, I mean, even in our movies, right now we're going through superhero fatigue,
Oh, yes.
I mean, the market is saturated. And so in the theater, yeah, you're going to have that. And we've been having it. But I can tell you, like an A24 film, it's going to jump off the page and somebody's like, I want that.
Yep.
Because I have the same criticism for like movies. Like, do we have all these film festivals? Why aren't you promoting these films that go to film festivals? And we should have a whole thing of that, but we keep doing remakes.
Yeah.
So people, when they start seeing those different things, they're going to want more of it. They just need access to it, and they need to know like where to go and get it. And they probably just need someone to guide them, help them. It's like, okay, you should be reading this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exactly what we're here to do. So Tyler, where do you see indie comics heading? We kind of talked about how I think that they're getting a good foothold in the world, especially for comic book readers and people who've been in the world forever. And you're not going to change someone who's a Fantastic Four diehard forever. His mindset, he's going to pick up every issue of Fantastic Four. I'm going to pick up almost every issue of Batman that I can. But Tyler, where do you see indie comics going from here?
You know what and this is just my own opinion. I may end up being totally wrong, but I think now that we have seen how pervasive digital comics is becoming, I see that becoming the new like mainstream. They're going to be all over the place because they provide all of these writers and artists who haven't been able to break into a DC or a Marvel and get their name out there. they can self-publish stuff.
Yep.
They can get that exposure. And, you know, my wife reads these webtoons
Yep.
that are little indie stories. They publish a little strip at a time, you know, 7, 8, 12 panels, not even a full book. And then they go viral and they blow up. And before you know it, you're seeing them in Barnes and Nobles.
Yep.
And to me, I really think that is going to be the future. And, you know, when Marvel and DC start realizing that this stuff is competing with them, I think they're going to change and become a lot more like the indies, to be honest, just to stay competitive. Because to Derek's point, when the market is so saturated, you've got to do something to set yourself apart. And if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, meanwhile, you've got this whole new market emerging where they're doing completely off the cuff stuff. I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot of evolution.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because something I've noticed using the DC app to read the books that I'm not paying for, they've got what's it called, like DC Go on there.
Yeah.
Derek, have you seen this?
Have I seen that?
I'll have to. Well, the DC app is, you know, pretty easy. And for those of you at home who can't see what I'm doing, I'm sharing my screen. And no, I'm not going to share my screen with all of you. This is a podcast. Sorry.
Okay.
But Tyler knows exactly what I'm talking about. Normal app, you can go through and find books. But what DC started to do to try and be relevant, to try to be new, is called DC Go. And what they do is they make it so that all you have to do is just swipe up. You just continuously swipe up.
Oh, okay.
So that you're reading the book.
So it's like scrolling through your TikTok.
It's scrolling through TikTok or whatever, and it's giving it to you panel by panel on the full screen for its orientation. And I mean, it's not for me. Someone probably likes it because it feels like scrolling, and you just, you know, pause, you read, you pause, you read, you pause, you read, and you keep going, and you get to see all of it. And it's cool that they have this, and it's cool that it's a new version of the book, so I can read it in this new format. But to Tyler's point, DC and Marvel are going to have to be innovative.
Yeah,
that cool. You're trying. Yeah,
let's get your stories up to par, or you know what's going to happen if they don't have to change if they buy you.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that too. They're gonna either change. They're gonna we'll just purchase you, and then we'll just reap the benefits.
Okay. Counterpoint. Private Eye. So something that the three of us have with a couple of other of our friends is a comic book club, and the main idea, at least from my perspective, that I wanted to, you know, have this for. Yeah, I want to read comic books. And I'm going to read comic books, and I want people to talk about comic books with. Glad you guys are there because you've read a lot of them with me. But it's to help show people and our friends who kind of like comics, kind of like comic book stories, there's so much more to it. Tyler had us read Private Eye. I'm shocked it didn't make your list.
So, thought about it real hard.
Tell me a little bit about Private Eye and what makes it unique from other indie comics, because it was completely self-published.
Yep. Yeah, so it was completely self-published. In fact, so it was written by Brian K. Vaughan, who has shown up on a couple of our lists today. And it's a really interesting story. Highly recommend you go read it. And it's super easy to find because he self-published it in a pay-what-you-want format. So you can go to his website where he is hosting this comic that he wrote, and you can say, hey, you know what? I just want to give this a try. I'm going to download it for free, and it's totally legal. You're not pirating. You're not stealing. He has put it up. Or if, you know, you're in a position where you have the ability to say, I really like this artist. I really like this writer. I like what he's doing. I want to support him. Here's $20. You get the book. And then someone else could go say, I'm this guy's all-time fan. I'm going to give him $100, you know, whatever. And that's a really cool thing that, you know, you've started to see that more and more over the last couple of years, but he was one of the first ones, at least that I was aware of, where he did that. And, you know, what was great is that fueled so much exposure too, that now here we are, 12, 14 years later from its original release, and it's actually gotten a full color hardback release that you can go order off of Amazon now. And, you know, that it's the type of story that probably wasn't going to see that kind of success if it was even published by, you know, Image or a Boom Comics or IDW or what have you. So, and it's just a really fun story that you should go read anyway. So
agreed. Yeah. Great story. But Tyler, what's the big style choice that's different from this comic to other comics? This was
so
I was shocked and I loved personally, but
your
book,
so it's great because it's really meant to be read on computer screens, and so it's super wide rather than being tall like your normal comic book, and every page is laid out so that it's a full page on a computer screen in a 16:9 ratio rather than what you would see on a normal comic book. And when you buy the hardback, it's in that long 16:9 ratio. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And if you're not used to reading that, it definitely throws you for a loop a little bit because you're expecting to have to scroll down a little bit or something, and it just goes to the next page.
Honestly, it was probably one of my favorite experiences in reading a comic book recently in a digital format. You know, like I said, I've got the DC and the Marvel app to read the books that I'm not paying for, so I can still pay through the companies to be able to access their content. But in those, it typically is in that vertical portrait mode of reading it. And on the iPad that I read it on, you know, I can read the whole screen in a single page. There are the occasional pages that you have to turn horizontally or into that landscape mode to be able to see both pages side by side because of the way that the book is formatted. And again, for my iPad, that's not the worst. Maybe I have to do a little bit of zooming here, maybe a little bit of zooming there. Okay, fine. Private Eye, as unique as it was, it, for one, didn't have any double pages, so I didn't have any worry about having to be like, oh god, I can't read everything on the page, because to your point, it's made for a single screen at a time. So it was so convenient to just sit there and keep the iPad turned sideways, and it still was very, very legible on its screen format, and it's just one page at a time. Just the whole thing. Whatever panels were on that page, was it one panel or multiple, it was all sideways and it was all good to go. And, you know, it reminded me of Transmetropolitan when we were reading it, because of all of the content and all of the stuff in the background. You know, scenes where the main detective is running through the streets and you've got all these people in different masks. I'm playing Where's Waldo with it, just looking at every little picture in the background to try and see, oh, who's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's this? And that was great.
It was good. So much detail.
Oh yeah, so much detail and a good story, and a self-contained story. It had its story. It told it. It was done. It's what, like 8 issues long, if that.
Yeah. It was a thick. I had the graphic novel of it. It was thick, but you can get.
Yeah, I think it might be 12, but I don't know.
It's still not that many.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's a quick read. Yeah. I read it in one sitting.
Yeah, 12 issues really doesn't take that long to read.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of agree with you, Tyler, that I hope more people try and do self-publish. I hope more people start putting their content out there. And, you know, another one that came to mind as we're talking here was the JL8, when the were like all 8-year-old kids at school, and it's like this web comic. Oh, it was so fun. If you want something cutesy to read that's based on the superheroes that you love, look up the JL8, and it starts with Bruce as Batman in the back of the car being dropped off at school, and he doesn't have any friends, and he's kind of brooding and hanging out with himself, and he doesn't want to talk to anyone. And I remember him standing at the top of the slide, just sitting there brooding, watching over the playground, and someone else like, are you gonna go? Because I want to turn down the slide.
That's funny.
And the guy writing it was putting out one like every other week or every 2 weeks or something like that. So I remember like, oh, a new one's out, yes, and just trying to like keep up with what was going on with the story. But, you know, it's things like that I hope we get a lot more of in the future from the independent comic publishers, whether it is truly someone wholly independent or working with IDW, working with Image Comics. So any other thoughts from your side, Derek, of kind of where you see indie comics going?
I see a bright future for indie comics. I see more and more opportunities being given, especially for shows. I don't know how many are going to pop up. I have no idea. I just think they've caught on now.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, if these stores are out there, we can get them. Nobody knows so much about them. We can take some liberties with them and kind of twist into what we want to twist it into. They're going to go get it. It's the easy button. It's like, look, man, the story's already written. We need to tweak a few things here and there, make it for television, and ta-da, here we're there. Pay this guy.
Exactly.
So I think the future is bright for it. I mean, because especially with all of the different, streaming services are out there. Everybody's trying to get an edge, so people need content that the other does not have.
Right.
And I think that is one of the ways to do it. Is like, go find these indie artists or these indie comic book authors and say, hey, make something for us. Oh, I have something right here for you. Boom, we'll take it.
Yeah, it's already written.
And they're going to do it.
It's done.
And it's done.
It's good to go. Like you said, tweak a couple small things, break up the episodes into ways that make sense for an episode. I mean, hell, Invincible did that in a way that makes sense for the TV show. We've talked about it a little bit, Derek. The book does things in one order, and that works fantastic for the book.
Yeah.
The show did it in a different order, and at first it was jarring for me. So I'm sitting here going, yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen yet. That's supposed to happen later. Well, wait a second. Hey, we missed this. Oh, nope, there it is later in the show. Yeah. And it was just a different flow. The
flow's different.
But for the show, it works.
Yeah.
They still hit the same story beats. They're still hitting the major plot points. But it's all written. You've got your script. You've got your character designs. You've got your character concepts. You know where your characters are going. You just need an actor, whether it's a voice actor or not. Yeah, you got to do a little bit of animation, and that can take time too. Or you got to do recording, which can cost a lot more money. It's already there.
It's there.
It's already there. You got the script.
Exactly.
Go for it. That's the hard part. And I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying these things.
We talk about that a lot. It's like if we were in charge, what would we do? Like, we get mad when there's something done incorrectly. It's like, who made this decision? It wasn't it's not a toughie. No. It's right there. Just take it, read it, and then do it.
Yep.
Why are we not doing it?
I know.
It's so goofy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Is there anything, and this is going to be a question that's a little bit more on a sour note, is there anything bad about indie comics from either of y'all's perspective?
I would say the one negative that I've run into is that they tend to be much smaller teams of, writer artists. They don't have the resources behind them of these major big time companies a lot of times. And so because of that, every once in a while you'll come across a story where the writer just gets burnt out, or they can't spend the amount of effort on it that they really want to. And you either see like the quality start to really drop off after the first handful of issues, or in some cases they just step away from it entirely and never finish it. And I would say those are probably few and far between where you run into that, but you do see that because, at a DC, worst case, they're just going to stick another writer and artist on there to finish the darn thing. But so that would be probably the one downside that I see is, it's much more a work of passion, and that can be exhausting.
Oh yeah, agreed. It's definitely passion, and I do think, and I want to hear your opinion on this too, Derek. But I do think that there is a slight upside to that too, in that you can have some of these artists and authors honing their craft a little bit more and becoming better, and developing it, if it's truly their passion to that extent. Now, everyone's going to get tired of doing what you do. No one's going to have the perfect job. There's going to be something about it you don't like. But I agree, you can see that kind of fade out. I do think that's a good thing, that a lot of the times it's a much, much smaller group of people who make it for a much shorter period of time. But, I mean, could you imagine if Seth MacFarlane had written all of Spawn and had still been doing the art for it this entire time for the hundreds of issues? That man would have given up Spawn how many years ago?
I know.
Right.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane. Excuse me, not Seth. That's the comedian.
That's the Family Guy.
Wow. Yeah, I lose a nerd point for that one. Sorry, guys.
I mean, it's being creative. What if Seth MacFarlane was writing Spawn?
What
would happen?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, fun thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I showed you. I definitely showed him.
Okay.
One of my issues of 8 Billion Genies has Spawn on it. I'll show you afterwards.
That's
It's a variant cover,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Spawn with his genie. Ah,
I like it.
love it. Spawn's not in the issue. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Sorry, don't get too excited. It was just a fun cover that they did as a variant cover.
Mm-hmm.
So back to my original question: what's something negative from your perspective?
It's kind of something that you guys were talking about, and that's one reason why I didn't really talk about Black Monday Murders, because it's been on hiatus for like 5 years. I don't know when it's coming off hiatus, and it's to the point of, well, the author, I forgot what happened to the author. I don't know. I can't remember what happened, but can't continue it. So without that, there's no direction. And so you don't know when you're going to get the story. They haven't canceled it, but it's on hiatus. Don't know when it's coming back. I think that part is a negative piece. You don't have the team to do it. You know, it's no different than like, what's that Wheel of Time series, right? The author died early. Someone else had to pick it up. Someone who they trusted. Are we getting the exact end the way the author intended? I don't know. We don't know. But that's just what happens. I mean, you do get a finished story. It's just unfortunate that's not with the original person. So bringing that on with comics, like if I could say there was something negative about indie comics, is yeah, you're right. You have a limited budget. You have limited personnel. Heck, someone's arm could give out from drawing all this stuff, especially if you're author and artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes. I mean, that happens in manga all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could. I think that would be the only negative I can think of. And maybe limited availability of a book. You know, like DC and Marvel can put out printings, but you might not get a second run of an indie comic. It's like, that's it. That's how we're doing, and we're done.
And that was actually going to be mine. And
okay.
Kind of along that lines is, you know, we've made the comment that sometimes the indie comics are harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get them as well publicized in the sense of, hey, look, here's what's coming next. You know, you're flipping through your Batman, your Superman, your Spider-Man, and almost every third, fifth page is an ad for another book within the Marvel or DC universe. Hey, check out this book that's upcoming. Hey, check out this book that's upcoming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy to see these things. You go to your comic book store, and depending on how invested in indie comics your local comic shop is, they don't really get much in the, here's what's coming soon from indie comic publisher Image. Here's what's coming soon from IDW. There's not much of that. There's a lot of it for everything big coming from Marvel and DC, but you don't get as much publicity or as much discussion around here's what's to come unless you're following those specific artists and authors and companies on something like Instagram or something like YouTube or Facebook or TikTok to see what they're working on. More often than not, unless you are in the know and actively following them, it's sometimes harder to find what's new from Image today? What new series have they put out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a hindrance for them. You know, not necessarily that it's a thing to deter you to make you go away from it. If anything, that should motivate you to seek out these books, to go and find these other creative artists who want to bring these stories to you and be asking the questions, what else is there? What other things are Image and IDW putting out? Because there's a lot of them we just didn't mention.
Yeah.
A lot of them in my head that I've got in the back going, hey, this is a good, runner-up. Power Rangers. There's a lot of content for Power Rangers out there right now. Mm-hmm. Some really good stories. I've got one up on my shelf that's fantastic. I think, Tyler, did I get you to read it? The one about Tommy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to read this.
Okay.
Because it's fantastic. It's Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger from the original series, trying to find his son who's been kidnapped, and he has his morpher that has access to every version of a Power Ranger he can be.
Wow.
So he can, utilize the different morphers all at the same time, depending on which, morphing coin goes into it. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's one little small side story. But there was a massive story for the world of Power Rangers a couple years ago that was just fantastic. You know what I'm talking about, right, Tyler?
Lord
Drakon?
Oh, the Lord Drakon run.
Lord Drakon run?
Okay.
Oh, Dark Power Rangers.
I thought you were saying Power Rangers versus Godzilla, personally.
Well, everyone's going up against Godzilla these days, so that's not as
Yes.
Not as exciting.
not as exciting.
Yeah, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2 just started releasing this month. So
That's a thing?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
I did not know that.
The crossovers that those people have sometimes are just crazy. But no, I do think that there's a lot more out there that people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to get people interested in indie comics and try to help these smaller publishing companies to show to Marvel and DC, you guys got to change what you're doing. You got to start stepping up to the plate. You know, yes, we love the big name characters. You got to start bringing us a little bit of something new, a little bit of something different, and not expect your stories to always go forever.
Mm-hmm.
Tell a story and move on. Give us a character, give us 12 issues of them, and let the story move on. Don't expect it to be some kind of cash cow you're just going to be able to keep going back to.
Yeah.
That's my thought on it, you know, for what little bit of a negative that is.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, any other thoughts on indie comics as a whole? I know we've kind of ran long today.
I want to mention one other author,
Okay.
Paul Pope.
Paul Pope.
Paul Pope wrote, and I was looking it up. He wrote a comic called Battling Boy, and that was pretty funny. It's this kid who's just he's a fighter, right? And he's going through these different trials, and he's super strong and all that. But he goes against these crazy, big human type creatures. But Paul Pope is interesting because he has an interesting art style, the way that he draws, and it's really the story and how he tells it. It just takes you on this wild ride, and you just don't really know what's happening next. But I think he has written, I'm looking at the list here, he's done some Batman. He did Batman Year 100. That was Paul Pope.
Paul Pope.
Yeah, so read some of him. The other one, the story that he did was Heavy Liquid, which I got into. And it was basically this liquid that, it was a drug that people put into their eyes.
You've mentioned this one today.
Yeah, and it gave them some, I can't remember all the abilities it gave them, but there was a whole thing in the kind of a detective kind of trying to figure it out, like what's going on. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to come across a Paul Pope book, do check it out, because his art style and everything that he does kind of sticks out. Okay.
Any last thoughts before we start to come to a close from you, Tyler?
I think one last thought that I want to plug it because I have to, is if anybody is interested, the IDW Transformers line of books is phenomenal all around. Cannot recommend it enough. If you like the Transformers, you have got to check out that book. Everything they've done over the last 12 to 15 years out of IDW Transformers related has just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, 2 questions. First one, do you know who's going to be the writer starting with number 25 in October?
No.
Robert Kirkman, who is the writer of Invincible and The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm going to have to pick up issue 25 of Transformers because Kirkman's writing it.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
Second question, is that your recommendation for a starting point of jumping into indie comics, or is that just another, hey, check this one out because it's great?
You know, when it comes to indie comics, I think you just jump into whatever grabs your attention.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if you see a Star Wars book on the shelf and you're a big Star Wars fan, grab that. If you're a big Transformers fan, grab that. If you're a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan, grab Sonic the Hedgehog.
Who would be a Sonic fan? Let's
just the weirdos, I know. But yeah, I think, again, you know, we're talking about what makes indie comics unique, and it's that you can kind of just grab whatever and go from there. And so that's what I would recommend. But you know, everybody's gonna have their own things that they like or dislike. So
my recommendation for what to start with in indie comics is going to be Locke and Key. I know it's not one I talked about, but the reason I'm going to recommend it is because it kind of touches on everything we've talked about. Mm-hmm. It's a world that feels grounded. It has something special about it. It's not superhero based. There's you know, fantasy aspects to it that can make it feel more than human, kind of superhuman-esque, but it's not superheroes and capes. It's a self-contained story. It's really well done story writing. And it's made for that good, audience of teenager to adult can both find something in it. There's a little bit of that teenage drama that you get, which was great when I was a late teenager reading it for the first time. But even as an adult rereading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is still such a great story because of all the different elements that I'm able to pick up out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a really good, it's a good story to be able to kind of fall in love with all these different characters and want more from it and realize that you can now start looking at what this author and this artist is doing and go find other things and start to look down the rabbit hole of other books from them or things that are like it.
Okay.
And just, that's my recommendation. Start with Locke and Key.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What about you, Derek? What's your recommendation of a good starting point for getting into indie comic books?
Man, what was on my list earlier?
You had quite a few on your
I had
list.
so many.
I know.
I'm gonna recommend a book that I did not talk about at all, but it's popular in the indie realm, and that's Saga.
You got it on your list, number 10.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to really go in, but Saga really captured me when I first started reading it, and I think it is a fantasy story, and it's between these two planets and the inhabitants of both those planets, and telling a story of one person from this side meeting another person from this side having a child, and that was bad between both sides, and so both sides don't want the child to exist. So parents from both sides have to defend their child from both threats from their respective armies, which is a crazy ride.
Oh yeah.
So I think it just involves a lot of different stuff, and then anybody can get to that story.
Yeah.
Anybody can get it. And it has a really nice fantasy element. It got so big, people have been dressing as characters from that comic at different comic cons I've gone to.
All right, well, guys, I think that's all we have time for today. We've done a lot of good talking here. I know our fans are going to be very sad that it's coming to an end. I've had a great time talking to both of you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for both coming
on
and messing up with my whole two nerds versus the internet. I don't know how we're going to spin this. Maybe we'll call it the Awesome Three Guys. I don't know. I'll have to workshop the name and make it something way cooler than that, because that was horrible. We've hit the nail on the head here with indie comics having such a prevalent point in our world. There's so much that's so good about them. There's so many different things that we could go on, and all these different books and all these different stories. I mean, like I said, we each talked about 3. I may have broken my own rule and talked about a few more from our top 10 list for a little bit longer. But there's just so much we can get into. And I hope that someone out there listening takes something from our list and goes and finds it. And if you have any questions, by all means, please leave a comment wherever you're listening to this podcast. Ask your question. I'll do what I can to get you an answer. And if I can't get you an answer, I'm calling my local experts to have them help me answer the question. But read an indie comic book. Pick your favorite one. Like Tyler said, find something that looks interesting in whatever realm you want it to be, and just dive into a great story. All right. So with that, thank you. Thank you both again. It's been fantastic. Thank you to all of our listeners for the continued support. Go find your favorite comic. Go read it. Go enjoy a great story. Leave a comment on this episode to tell us what your favorite indie comic book is, or which one are you going to try next. Maybe we recommended one here that you're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. I might have to go look up Letter 44. I'm going to go look up Letter 44. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have to go find that one out. If there are any other topics that you, the listeners, want us to talk about, please drop a comment. I'll bring one of these guys back. Maybe I'll find someone different who knows more about something that neither of them know. It's going to be hard to do because these are my experts. That's why I've got the both of them here. But thank you so much for being here today. Tell us how, your experiences are with different indie comic books. Tell us what you want us to talk about next. Share this with your friends. Get the word out there that indie comics are here. They're here to stay. They're the best thing on the whole planet. Keep listening in. Keep joining our conversation for future nerdy topics. Have a wonderful day and keep nerding out.